Breaking news, and this one is sending shockwaves across the nation. Every single Republican representative in the House has just voted yes on a bill that critics are calling the most extreme legislation in modern American history. According to the bill, US citizens could now face deportation to overseas labor camps in El Salvador, Rwanda, in Libya. Not one Republican voted no. Not one. Social media is on fire. Outrage is erupting across all platforms as America from coast to coast reacts with disbelief, anger, and fear. Is this the beginning of a new era of authoritarianism, or is there more to the story than meets the eye? In this video, we are diving deep into the facts, the fallout, and the fearless opinions flooding the internet. From Twitter trends to TikTok rants, from legal analysis to everyday citizens, you will hear what people are really saying. And yes, we will also break down how the MAGA movement is responding. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon because you are not going to want to miss what is coming.
Watch this.
Raise your hand if you do not think children with cancer who are American citizens should be deported.
Do not think.
Looks like it's all the Democrats and none of the Republicans.
Let me break down what just happened. Goldman asked the Republicans on that committee, should citizens, U.S.-born children, be deported? Raise your hand if you disagree with that statement. And none of them raised their hands. Let me help y'all out really quickly. You can't deport U.S. citizens. When you deport somebody, you deport them back to the country they came from. If they were born here, where do you send them? You can't just send them to a random country and call that deportation. Republicans want to tell you they are the party of pro-life. They would go out of their way to protect the fetus, but then be okay with this. Yeah, let's get the child here. Let's help the child be born and then be perfectly okay with them being deported to another country that they weren't even born in. It's a slippery slope what they're doing. Don't think it's just us. They can come after you too if this goes through. If it's just these people here, then it will be about who's rich and who's poor. It never stops. It's Joker mentality. There is no point to any of this. They just want to serve their God King and watch the country burn, thinking that nothing will happen to them because of this craziness. Explain this to me. Someone, please. You're not crazy.
Breaking news, every single Republican representative in the House, every single one, just voted to start deporting U.S. citizens to the slave labor camps in El Salvador, Rwanda, and Libya. Not one Republican representative of the House voted no to this bill. MAGA will support this because they are fascists.
Republicans just voted against preventing ICE from deporting U.S. citizens. Watch this.
Raise your hand if you do not think children with cancer who are American citizens should be deported.
Do not think.
Looks like it's all the Democrats and none of the Republicans.
During a committee meeting on Wednesday, House Democrats, and I can't believe they actually had to do this, had to file an amendment to a budget bill proposing that ICE does not deport U.S. citizens. Why would they have to make such an obvious amendment? Because U.S. citizen children were deported just last week. But to no surprise, every single Republican said no, meaning they are completely okay with defying the U.S. Constitution and deporting U.S. citizens. The fact that Democrats had to introduce a formal amendment to not violate the Constitution is batshit crazy.
Okay, well, this is being reported by just about every news outlet in existence. The GOP has voted to allow ICE to detain and deport U.S. citizens. You heard me right. But before I continue, please be sure to comment, share, and like. It's important that we stay connected. Stay with me, folks. This is another long one. Now, during a House Judiciary Committee meeting on Wednesday, Democrats tabled amendments to a sweeping budget bill that President Donald Trump has dubbed One Big Beautiful Bill. One amendment to this budget bill was introduced by Representative Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat from Washington state. She sought to make clear that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, cannot detain or deport U.S. citizens under any circumstances. Well, GOP lawmakers killed that bill. I know this is related to birthright citizenship. I know this is what some people refer to as the anchor baby clause. But keep in mind, this could be so far-reaching for government control over the population. Trump has already said that he's willing to revoke someone's citizenship. And if you can revoke someone's citizenship, then that means that the children of those that have had their citizenship revoked, let's say naturalized Americans, are now at risk also of being deported. Here's an example. If your parents came here legally from, I don't know, let's just say Tunisia. They came here legally, became naturalized American citizens, had their children born here in the U.S., lived here all their lives, and now, for whatever reason, these Tunisian parents have offended this administration in some way. Their offense can now be construed as a crime. Their citizenship can then be revoked. And now you, too, are at risk of being deported because you are now classified as a U.S. citizen born of immigrant parents. You can now also be detained and deported by ICE. But even beyond that, Trump has already said that he would be willing to deport U.S. homegrown citizens as well, to the likes of those notorious prisons like the one in El Salvador. No due process. You've just offended the administration, that's it. You've been labeled, put on a terrorist list, and shipped out of the country, regardless of your status as an American citizen. People who voted for this president and support his administration will live the rest of their lives in shame at the calamity that they brought upon all of our heads. In the meantime, peace.
All right, you're not going to believe this. I'm just outside the House Judiciary Committee, and actually, I got a guy here who wants to say hi. Hold on. I'll take a picture with you real quick. I'm doing an Insta Live right now. You're on an Insta Live, but I'll get back to it in a second. Hop in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you guys. Of course, thank you. All right. House Judiciary Committee right now, you're not going to believe this. I'm kind of stunned that I have to tell you this. Republicans just voted, every single one of them, to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. Not like deport unlawful, violent immigrants. No. They just voted in our committee to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. That's where this is going. They just voted to allow that. I've never thought I would see this before. I never thought it would come to this, but that's where we are right now. And so just on the other side of these doors is the hearing that I'm in right now. I'm going to get back in a second because we're still voting on other matters, but it's not shocking because this is always where it was going to go, but that's a dictatorship. That's a dictatorship. It's a fucking dictatorship when you allow a president to deport your own constituents. And learn the names of every Republican on the House Judiciary Committee because they just did that. They just voted to allow Donald Trump to deport American citizens. I mean, it's one of the most shocking things I've seen. I think my Democratic colleagues were stunned that they would want to give him so much power. But that's where it's going. It's not going to be a completed dictatorship, though, and I want to tell you why. He has the ambitions of being a dictator. For it to be a completed dictatorship, he needs you to not show up to the town square. He needs the press to not independently cover him, and he needs the courts to not hold him accountable. He should have a check by Congress. That's gone. These guys are not doing it. It's gone. But right now, the press is independently covering him. Courts continue to hold him accountable, and you keep going to the town square. So that's the sand in the gears of a dictatorship, and we gotta amp it up. We have to amp it up. Again, I just want to tell you why I invited you in here. House Judiciary Committee right now in Congress, Republicans just voted to allow Donald Trump to deport American citizens. This is the same week that we learned that the president deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer. And this is where they're taking us. But we're not helpless. We're not helpless at all. You are awakened. You are going to the town squares. We have small victories that will bring us big victories. We're going to cut our time in hell in half by changing the majority in Congress and putting a check in place. Let me get back into this hearing, but I wanted to tell you, as soon as I sat in that room and saw that vote, Republicans on the Judiciary Committee just voted for Donald Trump to deport American citizens. Fuck that. We're not letting that happen.
Okay, I think it's time we start talking about U.S. citizenship, because if you think being a U.S. citizen makes you safe from deportation under this Trump administration, I need you to listen closely, because right now, under Trump's second term, we're seeing something that we're never supposed to see in a constitutional democracy. American citizens are being deported. I'm talking about babies, cancer patients, legal residents sent across borders, sometimes without hearings, without lawyers, and without their medicine, and without basic due process. That's not a mistake. That's not a glitch. That's a sign. 3 U.S. citizen children, one just 2 years old, another battling stage 4 cancer, were deported to Honduras with their mothers, and when the judge asked the government to verify if the mother really chose to take her children, it was too late. The plane had already taken off. Now, let that sink in. A U.S. citizen child with cancer was deported without her medication. And when Congress had a chance to put in protections to make sure that this never happens again, House Republicans voted it down. So I don't want to hear this isn't who we are, because apparently this is what we're becoming, okay? Unless we decide to stop it. And look, I get it. Trump says that he's only targeting criminals. But here's the truth. Once you break the law to exile citizens, once you ignore courts' orders to sideline immigration judges, you're not just fighting crime, you're fighting the Constitution. And even worse, Trump has already openly floated the idea of sending U.S. citizens, the so-called homegrown criminals, to foreign prisons. He even joked that mistakes are just part of life. That's not leadership. That is authoritarianism testing the waters. So here's what we have to understand, that the Constitution protects all citizens from unlawful exile. Due process isn't optional. It's a cornerstone of democracy. And when government starts picking and choosing who gets to stay based on politics, race, or convenience, nobody's safe. Our citizenship is truly safe. So we are witnessing the slow erosion of the rule of law, one executive order at a time. And if we don't fight back with knowledge, with votes, with lawsuits, with clarity, we're going to wake up in a country where your rights only exist until someone more powerful says they don't. So I'll leave you with this. Citizenship without rights is just paperwork, and democracy without accountability is just theater. Now's the time to choose fear or freedom. What side are you on?
So what we just witnessed today in the US House of Representatives is not politics as usual. It's not another partial scramble. It's not even a controversial policy debate. What happened today was a line crossed, one that many Americans never imagined possible in democratic nation. Every single Republican representative in the House voted to pass legislation allowing the deportation of US citizens, yes, citizens, to what are being described as overseas labor camps in countries like El Salvador, Rwanda, and Libya. These are not metaphorical terms. These are literal international destinations where the US government could begin sending its own people under the new bill. Let's pause right there. This isn't about immigration. This isn't about border security. This isn't about citizens. People born, raised in this country, people with social security numbers, voting records, and deep roots in American society, and not one Republican voted against it. This bill passed with full party support from the GOP. That means silence wasn't just complicity, it was endorsement, full-throated, unambiguous, coordinated approval of a bill that would strip US citizens of their rights and remove them from American soil. Now let's talk about what that means legally and morally. We are talking about forced displacement. We are talking about indentured labor. And yes, many are already using the word that hangs over this whole issue like a storm cloud: slavery. This is so-called labor camps are in countries known for exploitative labor practice, weak human rights protections, and in some cases, active conflict zones. Libya is notorious for model-day slave markets. Rwanda has a complex political landscape with credible allegations of suppression and detachment. El Salvador, despite recent improvements, still has a fragile legal system and ongoing concern about due process and civil liberties. So what is the US government doing sending citizens there? And under what justification? According to the bill's language, individuals deemed disloyal to American interests could be processed under emergency national security powers. But that is dangerously vacuum. Disloyal. Who defines that? A bureaucratic, a partial committee, an AI algorithm? It could mean something, it could mean anything. It could mean protesting at a rally, it could mean posting a meme, it could mean disagreeing with the wrong person online. This bill doesn't name names, it doesn't define scope, it gives the executive branch sweeping authority and removes the guardrails we have come to depend on for 2 centuries. People across the internet are stunned. On Twitter, hashtag like deportation bill, hashtag slavery in America, and hashtag GOPF racism are trending. Influencers and independent journalists are calling this the depth of civil rights in the US. TikTok is flooded with videos from users crying, yelling, and begging others to wake up. Even typically apolitical creators are saying this has gone too far. Meanwhile, legal scholars are scrambling to understand how this even made it through committee. Constitutional experts say this bill is direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, which guarantees equal protection under the law and due process. Deporting citizens without trial, without representation, without charges, that is not a legal loophole. That is a constitutional crisis. And let's be honest, if this bill had passed with even one dissenting vote, even one Republican who stood up and said no, this is a step too far that would have given people hope, but it didn't happen. Zero opposition, zero hesitation, and that is what has people comparing this moment to the rise of fascist regime in history. That is not hyperbole anymore. That is a historical pattern. Unchecked power, total obedience to party, removal of dissenters, forced labor, foreign detention. You don't have to look far back in history to know where this path leads. So what do? People are already organizing protests, legal groups are preparing to challenge the bill in court. Civil rights organizations are calling for emergency action and mass mobilization, and other social media thousands are pledging to resist with every tool they have. But here is the truth. Resistance isn't enough if we don't inform. If we don't speak up, if we don't vote, if we don't demand accountability from every single person in power, Republican or Democrats, who stay silent during these moments, because silence is how democracy dies, not in fire, but in quiet obedience. This bill is not just about the MAGA movement, it's about how quickly a major political party can fall in line behind authoritarianism when they think no one else is watching, or when they believe the ends justify any means. But we are watching, and we are not forgetting. So if you are feeling shocked, angry, scared, good, that means your conscience is still working. Now use that energy, share this video, talk to your friends, organize, speak up while you stay calm, because today is the labor camps in El Salvador. Tomorrow it could be anyone else. If you found this video informative or important, please like, share and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss future updates on these developing stories. Stay safe, stay alert, and most of all, stay loud.